4:40 a.m., Seoul, South Korea. In the neighborhood of Singil-dong, a man forces a semi-basement door and steps inside. In the back room, a 24-year-old sleeps. The first blow lands before he wakes. The father hears it, rushes in, and the room turns into a struggle. 3 bodies, 1 narrow space. They drive the intruder to the floor and hold him long enough to call 112. Patrol units arrive, cuff him, and move him to the car. 5:30 a.m. During escort, he slips custody and runs while being handcuffed. Officers sweep the blocks around Singil-dong, checking stairwells and courtyards as dawn lifts. 7:30 a.m., a resident calls in a sighting nearby. Units converge. He is taken back into custody. Officers think it's a burglar, but it isn't. In interview rooms, the suspect answers basic questions, then starts naming places and dates. Stairwells, one-room flats, back streets, women alone, children asleep. Detectives search his room and recover 2 key items, a knife and a pipe wrench wrapped in cloth. In the lab, the knife's blade matches the stab wound dimensions from another case that had been tied elsewhere. The pipe wrench is compared to injuries in earlier blunt force files, consistent with his later attacks. Files come off shelves. A map fills in. Between 2004 and 2006, 13 people were murdered across Seoul and nearby Gyeonggi, and others survived with injuries. Methods varied: knife, blunt force, occasional arson, but the pattern holds. It was the same hand. From that room in Yeongdongpo, the trail runs backward. 13 dead, others left breathing but changed. We'll follow the confessions, the weapon that fit old wounds, and the map of apartments that proved one man had been there first. The arrested robber had only $24,000 in cash and $10,000 in gift certificates. While being escorted, he muttered, "I could have killed 100 people. I can't reach my quota now." At the station, he was fingerprinted and identified as Jeong Nam-gyu, 37, a former convict. Seoul already had unsolved night attacks, different weapons, random victims, same corridors. Detectives needed to test a suspect against withheld details. At arrest, he muttered about killing 100. The assault was gratuitous, and the target looked opportunistic. This was not a routine burglary. Investigators brought in Kwon Il-yong, then a detective and Korea's first criminal profiler. Using a rapport-based approach, Kwon Il-yong gained Jeong's cooperation, and after roughly 12 hours of sustained questioning, Jeong decided to honestly tell everything and formally admitted earlier killings. By May 1st, police said he had confessed to 5 cases. Dongdaemun-gu, Imundong. Friday, February 6, 2004, 19:10 p.m. A 24-year-old walks through a neighborhood alley. He steps in, blocks the path, and drives a knife forward. This homicide was once tied to serial killer Yoo Young-chul, later reassigned to Jeong. She had been stabbed 5 times in the chest and other areas with what was presumed to be a knife over 15 centimeters in length. She did not survive. In July of that year, serial killer Yoo Young-chul, 36, who was arrested by the police, confessed to this crime. However, once the trial began, he recanted his testimony, saying, "The real culprit must be laughing somewhere right now." Sanbon-dong, Gunpo, Tuesday, February 10, 2004, 6 a.m. Ms. Sun, 26 years old, female, a milk delivery worker on her route, passes the education building at Nambu Church. He closes distance and hits her with a blunt object near the entrance. She dies on scene. Hwigyeongdong, Dongdaemun-gu, Wednesday, May 5, 2004, 2:30 a.m. A 22-year-old woman walks home along a narrow street. He attacks with a knife. She survives with multiple wounds. Investigators classify it as attempted murder. Imundong, Dongdaemun-gu, May 2004. He approaches a local church and sets a fire. Flames take a room before burning out. no fatalities. Logged as arson in the same round of admissions. Sanbondong, Gunpo, Monday, May 30th, 2005, 4 a.m. Ms. Kim, 43 years old female, who was delivering milk, was stabbed 20 times with a weapon, leaving her bleeding. She dies before help arrives. After confessing to the Imundong Alley murder that had been attributed to Yu, Jeong said, "I worked hard to commit the crime in that cold winter, but Yu Young-chul bragged about it as his crime, which made me so angry. Yu Young-chul is one level below me. Please understand that." Detectives then obtained a warrant and searched Jeong's room. They seized a wrapped pipe wrench and a knife. In the lab, the pipe wrench was compared with injuries in an unsolved blunt force case, and the knife's blade dimensions matched stab wounds from the Imundong Alley murder. Investigators also sent blood-stained material, a tissue, to the National Forensics Lab for DNA checks. During the search, profiler Kwon Il-yong reportedly found a weekly magazine clipping featuring his own face. Seeing it, he is quoted as saying, "I'd only seen this in books. Now I'm seeing it with my own eyes." Some broadcasts claim investigators also found several pairs of shoes with the soles cut out to avoid leaving footprints. That detail is not independently confirmed in primary case records. Police recorded a glove print matching a pair he owned. He wore grip gloves to reduce trace evidence. These practices, combined with opportunistic targeting and varied methods, helped him avoid detection for an extended period of time. Jeong agreed to on-site reenactments and reproduced entry paths and actions without hesitation. Investigators suspected he could be the perpetrator of the southwestern Seoul and Gyeonggi serial murders. Profiler Kwon Il-yong reviewed scene patterns. The profile matched what was on the files. Random, unprovoked attacks, mostly at night, targeting vulnerable individuals. Early scenes used knives, later blunt instruments, with occasional arson to complicate linkage. Investigators pulled photos, charts, and time windows, and between April 22nd and May 1st, his admissions expanded and were checked through lab work and reenactments. Prosecutors began consolidating the broader case. In all, Jeong was linked to 33 victims, 13 murders confirmed by verdict, and about 20 injured. Some incident lists include a 14th fatality, but the legal count remains 13. He confessed to the 2004-2006 Southwest Seoul cases. His killing spree began with two boys, ages 12 and 13. Bucheon-si, Gyeonggi-do, January 14, 2004, 9:30 p.m. While playing at a playground, he threatened 13-year-old male Yoon and 12-year-old male Im with a knife, took them to nearby Cheondok Mountain, sexually assaulted them, and strangled them with a scarf to death. The two boys were found 16 days later, with most of their clothes off near the peak of Cheondok Mountain, 3 kilometers away from the children's home.
2004년 초에 발생해 단서를 찾지 못했던 부천 초등학생 살해 사건의 진범도 정시로 밝혀졌습니다.
Born in 1969 in a rural village in North Jeolla Province, Jeong Nam-gyu was the seventh of 5 sons and 4 daughters in a rural farming family and endured a troubled childhood under the abusive care of his father. He was also sexually assaulted a couple of times by a neighborhood man when he was in the 5th grade. And during the police investigation, he admitted that this incident had a profound impact on his character. Through adolescence, he struggled to connect with others, faced bullying and a lot of violence at school, and reported rough treatment during military service and another sexual assault at the hands of a military senior. He says those years left him withdrawn and antisocial, filled with hatred and a desire for vengeance against society. By adulthood, he was cycling through the courts. In 1989, he was convicted of aggravated robbery and received a suspended term. In 1996, he was convicted of attempted robbery and rape and served 2 years and 6 months. Further convictions followed: theft and rape in 1999, 2 years, and vehicle theft in 2002, 10 months. After each release, he reoffended. Jeong said in interviews and in court that he enjoyed killing and felt no remorse. He boasted, "I can't resist the urge to kill. The smell of blood is fragrant, and it's exciting, like the burn of setting a fire." Profiler Kwon Il-yong concluded his motive was thrill-based, killing for pleasure, not revenge or gain. His behavior matched that claim. He smiled at TV cameras during crime reenactments. Media reported he watched CSI Crime Scene Investigation and kept news clippings about his murders. Though he told police he hated rich men, his victims were those physically weaker, women and minors. Attacks took place in narrow, empty streets or after break-ins at their homes. Early incidents involved knives. As the spree went on, he shifted to blunt weapons such as hammers. He favored southwestern Seoul, where surveillance coverage was sparse at the time. Chasing a perfect crime, he minimized traces and, police say, ran about 10 kilometers every 2 days to build stamina and evade pursuit. At trial, he kept the same stance: no apology, pride in the count. "I am unlucky to have been arrested. If I had not been caught, I would kill more," he said. He received the death sentence on September 21, 2006. The sentence was upheld on April 12, 2007. 2 years later, on November 22, 2009, he hanged himself in his cell using a rope made from plastic bags. Fear of execution is believed to have contributed to his suicide. Professor Kwon Il-yong later summarized, "Jeong was not interested in reducing punishment. He was driven by the impulse to kill, found joy in the act, and felt satisfaction when recounting his crimes during reenactments." Gocheok-dong, Guro-gu, April 22, 2004, 3 a.m. He followed a 20-year-old female college student, Ms. Kim, to her home and brutally stabbed her to death with a weapon while leaving the key in the door. Sindebang-dong, Dongjak-gu, Thursday, May 9, 2004, 2 a.m. Another student, 24, crosses by the south gate of Boramai Park on her way home. An attacker steps from the dark. She is rushed to the hospital and does not survive. Daerimdong, Yeongdongpo-gu, Thursday, May 13, 2004, 2:30 a.m. A Korean-Chinese shopkeeper, Mr. Kim, is cornered in the bathroom behind his store. 4 stab wounds, side and chest. He dies in transit at 5:45 a.m. Bongcheon-dong, Gwanak-gu, Wednesday, October 19, 2005, 5 a.m. In a semi-basement room, 26-year-old Ms. Bayan is sexually assaulted and killed as she sleeps. Her 23-year-old brother is bludgeoned. The room is set on fire. Chopsticks are jammed through the door to trap him. He survives with severe injuries. Suyu-dong, Gangbuk-gu, Wednesday, January 18, 2006, 5 a.m. A house is breached. A 17-year-old daughter is struck with a blunt weapon and strangled. Fire follows. 3 children are lost: a 21-year-old woman, a 17-year-old girl, and a 12-year-old boy. Bongcheon-dong, Gwanak-gu, Seoul. Monday, March 27, 2006, 4:50 a.m. In a 2-story home, 3 sisters, 23, 21, and 13, sleep in one room. He breaks in, sexually assaults them, and strikes with a blunt weapon. 2 of the sisters die. 3 weeks later, before dawn on Saturday, April 22, 2006, he breaks into a semi-basement apartment in Singil-dong. A father and a son fight him back. They overpower him and call the police. The interviews begin.